Welcome to An Awful World, but not awful like you think.
This is the show where we discuss whether we would have discovered important advances in a world exclusively full of Haylies and Libbys. I'm Haylie.
And I'm Libby.
And today we're talking about
architecture. Woo! Building things, building bridges.
Ooh.
No, never mind.
That might be its own separate thing. We'll talk about bridges later.
I didn't even research bridges, so that's good.
Yikes.
Architecture.
Yes.
Let's step into it, shall we?
Let's.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So my first thought was, when were stairs invented?
And are you really going upstairs or downstairs?
Well, I guess it's which way you're going.
Isn't that wild? Have you ever thought about that?
No.
When were stairs invented? I have no idea. I didn't look into that. I started just from the beginning.
Oh, good for you, because I was asked, would you guys come up with second stories? And I was just like, probably.
I think we would.
And so I immediately was like, well, when were stairs are invented? I bet we could master the stair.
Well, what did you find out?
Master.
No.
Screw the Stairmaster.
Absolutely not. What did you find out about when stairs were invented?
Stairs were invented in 2000 BCE.
By who?
Well,
by who?
It wasn't that they were invented then. It's just that they were around then. They don't know who invented stairs. They've just been around.
Where did we find them, Haylie? Tell me.
I don't know. They were kind of everywhere.
Okay. It was probably the Egyptians.
Yeah. So like the Egyptians, I think the Romans and China, they all had stairs that date back that far.
Interesting.
So
yeah,
we've had second stories for at least 4,000 years, and I'm sure longer.
I think we would have come up with stairs. And the reason I say that is because you just like think back to your childhood, like whenever you couldn't reach something tall, your solution was just to like push something else that you could get on top of to like get to where you needed to go.
That's true. You just start climbing whatever.
And then so I think we would be like, well, now wait just a damn minute.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we just put a bunch of little things that we can climb on top of, then the sky is the limit.
That's true.
Especially for short people like me.
That's true. But the whole thing, though, is then you have to, with stairs, you have to make a whole second story that can just
hold people.
Hold on top of another story without there being like ground underneath it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where things like really come in. Because
yeah. And I'll be honest, I don't know how that works today.
I don't either. I assume it has something to do with math.
Probably. and the word joist comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Floor
and that's like
joist.
A redistribution of weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's just like, you know that scene in Christmas Vacation where he's in the attic and he like falls through the attic?
Yes.
I don't know how that doesn't happen to us all the time, really. And that is modern architecture. Thank you for tuning into this episode of An Awful World. No, I'm kidding.
But I think we could figure it out sans math or with girl math.
Maybe.
I think you figure it out with girl math.
It would be a lot of like testing.
You ever like see those videos and they are like redoing a house that's really, really old, and turns out some just like old guy lived there and he just kind of kept putting stuff onto it on his own, and they're like, it's a miracle that none of this fell down and that the whole place didn't burn to the ground and all of this stuff, but it held for like 50 years kind of a thing. That would be us.
That's so true. And like, there is a limit to these things, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, we would find the limit.
Oh, we for sure would.
Push the limit.
We would. And I'll tell you why. Because I've never related with an episode of Hoarders so much in my life. I love the television show Hoarders, which is shocking to no one who knows me. And there was one episode where one of the hoarders had collected books over the years. She had worked at a bookstore and she had just collected books, and she had like over 10,000 books in her house, and it had caused like the foundation to break because it was so heavy in one spot that they were like, it is not safe for anyone to be in this house. Like it could literally collapse at any minute under the weight of books, which is not a totally terrible way to go out.
No.
Just in a sea of literature.
But it's not really the way I want to go out.
No, me either. I'm just saying these things, I don't think we think about it that often because most people aren't like stacking books up to their ceiling in their houses. So like, I don't think we often think about the limits of like architecture like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand even like skyscrapers.
I don't either. But you saying skyscrapers and that story about the books makes me think of that episode of How I Met Your Mother. And Ted's like, what if I don't think about the books?
Yeah.
And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, this famous architecture built a library, but didn't consider the weight of the books. And now it sinks like an inch every year, you know, kind of a thing into the ground. And I'm like, we would have to think of that. And some things I think would be a colossal failure.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. I think we would fail so much. But I think we would take like rigorous notes and be like, you know what happened?
You know what happened the last time we tried this? This.
Exactly. We'd be like, you know what? I think this was the problem. Let's try it without.
It could hold 900 books before it collapsed.
Exactly. But that 901st book.
That's when it all went south.
That's when it collapsed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that too.
Yeah.
Hey, listener, if you're in the Indianapolis area looking for warm photos of you and your loved ones, you're going to want to check out Hey Blondie. Hey Blondie is committed to capturing people from all walks of life through all stages of life, from a new baby to graduation. Check out HeyBlondiePhoto.com for more information and give them a like on Facebook and Instagram at Hey Blondie Photo. So let's just throw it back, though.
Yeah.
Because
you give me the history.
I'll give you the history for sure. So we think that like architecture really started to be a thing 10,000-ish years ago.
Okay.
We're not soups certain about that because we're like, well, did architecture become a thing or did people just stop living in caves? And when I was reading that, I was like, isn't that kind of just the same thing?
Yeah.
You know, like they were like,
gave it a name.
We're tired of this. We're going to build something.
Yeah.
And if you build it, they will come. So it started out as like just rocks and stones in like geometric shapes. And I wrote down, think Stonehenge. This is really a lot of Stonehenge coming up, more than I'd care for. But that is like what a lot of early structures looked like, is sort of just like that, like two rocks, two like big boulders. It's not just a rock. It's a boulder. Two boulders like standing vertically with like another boulder on top of it horizontally.
Like the Flintstones.
Like the Flintstones, exactly. Like that would be like an entryway or whatever. That is very like rudimentary, basic, like 10,000 years ago architecture. Great. Why did we use stone? Because it's what we had available to us.
And it's sturdy.
It is very sturdy, but it's also very heavy.
That's true.
Which can cause a lot of problems.
When it collapses on you.
Exactly. Because you will die. And that's not what we want. No. So then our friends, our most intelligent friends, the Egyptians. They come around, and between 3050 BC and 900 BC, they start their own architectural adventure, and they start to build the pyramids. One of the most amazing architectural feats of all time, right?
That's true. Beautiful.
Amazing.
Want to see them on my bucket list.
Same. It would be so amazing. So the pyramids are mostly like stone and mud. Or I guess, let me back that up. All right. So the pyramids obviously don't have wood in them, right?
Okay.
A lot of the modern Egyptian homes in that time were made out of stone and mud. But when the Nile River would inevitably, rise and fall, they kind of got swept away. So
they were in denial.
They were in denial, literally.
Yeah.
In denial. Nile jokes. Anyway. So over time, they eroded, they washed away because of the Nile. But I do think that the pyramids are mostly mud and stone. So they mirrored that pretty similarly. The reason they don't have wood in them is because there was no wood available to the people of Egypt when they started creating the pyramids. Isn't that wild?
That is. But then I guess kind of if you think about it, I'm like, well, you mean there are no trees? And then I'm like, well, it is a desert. And when I picture a desert, I don't really picture trees.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I guess I just never thought about like, of course, that would be totally like influential on the way their structures are built.
Right.
But turned out to be a good thing because
they're still standing.
They're still standing. The temples, the tombs.
Sorry.
Elton John was there.
That's right.
Everybody was there. And they said, great job.
He sang at those pyramids.
I'm still standing.
That's
better
right.
than I ever did. So, yeah. So they're still there. There's a lot of tombs and temples that are Egyptian that are still standing because they are made of stone instead of wood. So like it worked out pretty well. But then you think of like colonial America, which is like way after the Egyptians.
So much later.
So much later. It's mostly wood.
That's true.
Because that's what was available. So the people like there isn't like a lot of stone and mud here in North America. Like it's not as abundant as like trees would have been. So
Okay.
I guess, what do you think? Do you think that we would have stuck with a stone mud model? Or do you think that we would have been like, you know, these trees are pretty like strong things. Maybe we could like cut them down and fashion them into some sort of material that we can use to build homes.
Now, this is an excellent time to break out this little note that I wrote down that says 3 little pigs.
Okay.
It's immediately what I thought of when I thought of architecture. The 3 little pigs in their dumb little houses.
And they huffed and they puffed.
And they blew those houses down.
I literally have not thought about this in like 20 years. So please continue.
All right. So, you know, there's like the little straw house.
Right.
And then there's something in the middle. I think maybe wood. And then like sticks.
Too.
And
yeah.
then there's the brick house.
Right. She's a brick house. All comes back to song here in an awful world.
So I think we would definitely start with stone, things like that. Totally get it. And then I think as people progressed through the world, moved on and things like that, if we were kind of like, there's less stone here, or we've started to use a lot of our stone, what else can we use to build structures? We would go to wood because it is strong and it is sturdy. And so what else are we going to do with, like, without more stone
True.
to use? But I think that the Haylies of the world, I have this big mindset of anything worth building is worth overbuilding.
Okay.
So if we have been using stone forever and then we're like, well, shit, where's all the stone? We've got to use something else. The Libbys are like, hey, what about this wood? It's sturdy. It's strong.
Would this work? They would say. That's all the Libbys are good for in the world. Is a stupid, quick joke.
So I think that we would be like, yeah, let's try it.
Yeah.
But I would be like, we're going to like overbuild it because I don't trust it as much as I trust stone. Because I also think that we would be like, well, I've watched a tree decay.
Fall. Yeah.
And you see stone.
I have my skeptic.
Like weather, but not decay. So I feel like we would be skeptical of the wood. So, but then we would learn it's very hardy because we would overbuild.
Yeah. I think that's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's interesting to think about today, even like wood is not really a thing that houses are super built out of anymore. I mean, they are.
I'm like, the whole structure is wood.
They are, but on the inside, right? So like,
yes,
on the outside,
not
typically.
Like the siding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's not what you see. So yes, like you've got studs in the walls that are made of wood and floor joists, which are made of wood and all of that, right?
Yeah.
But the outward structure looks nothing today like a colonial home in the 1700s would have looked here in North America.
Right.
Which I think is interesting because most facades are either like plastic, like vinyl siding, or brick.
Yeah.
So like brick is really like, not that wood hasn't. I don't want to knock on wood. I didn't even do that on purpose. I don't want to knock on wood, but I do think that stone has withstood the test of time
Absolutely.
a little bit more than wood has, because it is such a sturdy, like, product.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so like just this past weekend, I was in Baltimore, and out in Baltimore, there's a fort called Fort McHenry, and it is made of stone, and it has been there since, I don't know, the mid 18th century, and it's seen a lot of war. It's where Francis Scott Key wrote the, the national anthem. I literally could not. I was like, the thing, the Star Spangled Banner. Honestly, how many times am I going to bring up Francis Scott Key on this podcast?
I know. I was immediately like, whose bridge you knocked down?
That I got to see from Fort McHenry. So it's where he wrote the Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem. And there was a big battle there during the Revolutionary War. And like, it's still there. It's still like standing pretty well. So you think of, there aren't like really a lot of wood structures that are like wonders of the world. You know what I mean? They're all stone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting.
And I mean, if you think about like castles, things like that,
stone.
Those are all stone.
Yeah.
And they have withstood thousands of years, hundreds of years, things like that, and are still going.
Still kicking it.
Standing strong.
So in 880 AD, we move into what's known as the classical era of architecture, which I am fond of.
Okay.
Because once again, our friends, the Egyptians, and our other friends who are almost as smart, but not quite as smart, the Romans. Sorry, Romans.
Are the Egyptians our Roman Empire?
Yes, absolutely they are.
I think they are.
These men have got it so wrong. Because, Rome is still a place today, but like Egypt.
It's no Egypt.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I'll pay hundreds of dollars to go see a mummy. It's so crazy. Anyway, this is all besides the point. But our friends, the Egyptians and the Romans, they start with this classical architecture style, which I'm super fond of, because this is when things become more aesthetically pleasing.
Okay.
And when they're like, you know what we should do? Make things symmetrical and proportionate.
And I do love symmetry.
Right. And I feel like we're both like that. We're like very like into things being perfectly symmetrical or even or looking really nice. So I'm very fond of that era. And that's when they start coming up with like columns, like pretty, like, Greek looking Roman columns, that sort of thing. And they're like super ornamental at the top and pretty and filigree and all of that.
I love the filigree.
I know. Ugh. Which I'll say, I am impressed by the fact the Romans had this beautiful architecture, the buildings, the filigree, all of that. But then you also have the sculptures from the Romans, which many people don't know were painted. Originally.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before.
In horribly disgusting colors.
Horrible.
Like, I didn't look into this, but I hope that they never painted those columns and they've just become like whitewashed over time. Oh, I don't like to think about that.
I know, but I bet you they did. I bet you they were just like heinous colors too.
You see, the Romans, would the Egyptians have done that? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
The Egyptians used really pretty colors.
True.
Like gold and like other pretty colors and the other ones.
The other stuff.
I'm sorry. I'm just convinced the Egyptians are better. I said what I said.
Yeah.
So I just think that's funny, though, that they have such beautiful architecture, and it's still so beautiful. You go to Europe, you go to see the Colosseum and all the, like the Trevi Fountain and things like that, which is not obviously as old as like the Roman Empire.
Right.
But all that stuff is still there, and it's so, so beautiful. But then they had these ugly statues.
I mean, the statues were beautiful. It's the painting.
Yes, correct.
That was bad. But part of me is like, do you think that we would think that if they stayed painted this whole time? Or do you think that we would be like, oh, that's beautiful because we're like, oh, that's old art and, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know.
Because we wouldn't know what they looked like as just pure white marble.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't know the beauty that truly was underneath.
I don't know. I guess I think about, other things that we have from ancient times, like eating utensils and like plates and cups and that sort of thing. And like those things have color on them and they're very pretty. But this to me, I'm just picturing like, I don't know why this comes to mind. You know, the picture of Jesus that's like with the thumbs up and like the winking, like that is the kind of like paint job I'm thinking of, like on these. Yeah. Like just very gimmicky and gaudy.
Yeah, because there's that one and it has like orange hair. And you're like,
just like, ooh.
Who made that choice?
Not great.
And how many redheads were there?
Right. It just, I mean, and that's a whole other episode. But
and most redheads, their hair is not that color.
Like
Don't do them like that.
I know. It's just, so, you know, the Romans just disappoint me sometimes with that stuff.
Sorry, Romans.
Yeah. No, and I love you guys. And I think you guys are killing it with the pasta. And I'm very fond of that. So thank you. I just think you could have done a little better on the statues, but that's okay.
I think you were just a little heavy-handed with the paint.
It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. So yeah. So I think in an awful world, yes, we would come up with architecture. And I wrote down that we are not outdoorsy girlies. I'm not sure how long we would be living in a cave before we would be like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like we've got to do something about it. And I think that would inspire us to start like tinkering with things to come up with some place to live. And of course it would be immediately like ridiculous and opulent because have you met us?
I know. Well, and you've heard my stories about when I try to build something and I start with some like really stupid, like rudimentary, small idea for something that I've never, ever made before. And then next thing you know, I have jumped like 10 skill levels because I'm like, you know, well, if I'm going to do that, then I might as well just do what I really want to do
next
and make
thing
this
you know,
100 times harder.
Haylie has built the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
That's right.
It's there. And she's like, I don't know. I was just going to do a little tower and then a whole thing. I can't even explain it.
That's right.
And that's why it's leaning a little. It was a thing. Don't ask about it.
Right.
We don't want to talk about it.
And I did it in a weekend.
Yeah, of course.
Everything's a weekend
Rome
project.
was actually built in a day.
That's right.
Okay.
In an awful world, we would have done it in a weekend.
Because we would have skipped the stupid paint. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just hating on the Romans too much. I'm sorry. They were very intelligent people. Not as smart as the Mayans and the Egyptians, but it's fine.
And you got to give them credit. Those pillars are beautiful.
Yeah, they are beautiful. They are.
You know, you can't. Now, here's my thing. Would we come up with the arch?
Which one?
Just the arch in
St.
general.
Louis Arch? No. The Arc de Triomphe.
Just like in general, creating an arch. Because it's all about like weight distribution to keep it up.
Yeah, no. You
don't think we would be like, here, I'll put a stone and then you put a stone and we hold on to our own little towers and then we can make them kiss in the middle?
No,
You're not going to make it kiss?
I think that I would look at it and I would be like, you know what would be easier? 2 vertical pieces and 1 horizontal piece and we'll call it a day.
You don't want to make it kiss?
We're sticking to the most geometric shapes because I don't know how you even do that. I don't understand weight distribution now.
Like, I just explained it to you. You have a tower, I have a tower. And then we bring them in little by little until they kiss.
How do you propose to, like, how are we going to hold that up as we're building it?
That's what
like, where are you going to come up with
Haylies and
ancient
Libbys
scaffolding? I know. How are you going to build the scaffolding?
Climb on each other's backs. Like Yertle the turtle.
Okay, well, this isn't a human pyramid. I'm trying to make the life and the world easier for us.
Well, and I'm trying to make it cuter. So,
and I get that. And I respect that. But I think that we would be way more we would be better served to just go the filigree route and the carving things into the stone route as opposed to trying to make fancy archways.
I'm not living without the arch, Libby.
Which is funny because you have no fucking arches in your house.
I know, but someday I will. And the arch exists in the world and I know it's there and it's beautiful.
I'm looking around and these are all rectangular doorways.
That's because this was what we could afford when I had my mental breakdown and bought this house when they pushed the bar back.
I'm just saying, if you felt so strongly about arches, you would have made a push for them, but you didn't. So I think that actions speak louder than words. That's all I'm saying.
The thing is I know they exist in the world.
They do.
And I think we could do it.
There's no way that you have hope that we could do it.
There's no way that I'm sitting at home and I'm talking to the other Haylies and Libbys, and we're trying to figure out how to build more homes. And I don't say, if we're going to make that door square, we might as well make it half round.
Said no one ever. That I would be like, the Libbys of the world would be like, Haylies. No.
All the other Haylies would be like, yes. You know what?
Like, let's make it
do that. Even harder. Let's make it a double arch.
I want the entire room to be scalloped.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know how confident I feel about that.
Legitimately, last year for Christmas, one of my friend's kids, I was like, what if I make a little wooden car? Just like very rudimentary.
Yeah, and it spiraled out of control, Haylie.
It spiraled out of control, and it was fantastic. Next thing I knew, I had made a full like truck, and it was really, really cute.
And I am happy for you about that.
And if I could do that, I could create the art.
I think you could. I'm just talking about the Libbys, and I have less confidence in their ability to build such things.
All we need, though, is like a couple of Haylies to make an arch and have it stay. And then the Libbys are going to be like, wow, we can make an arch.
Yeah, and then the Libbys
we're all going to have arches.
The Libbys will just be like the project managers that like, looking good, Haylies, and then just keep moving on because they're like, I'm not going to learn that. That seems like much work. Just let them handle it.
But the Libbys are going to be like,
supervising.
Hey, Haylies, can you put an arch over here in my house?
Yeah. Haylies, come look at this. Just walk away. Just let you figure it out. Just you finish it because I can't do it. Yeah. I don't think.
I think you can. I think we both can. And I feel pretty adamant that I could come up with an arch.
Okay. Well, I think that's been well established at this point. I have a random question for you that just popped into my head.
Yeah.
Speaking of bridges, back to bridges just for a second, even though I did no research on them. This is my only like foray into the world of architecture. Mm-hmm. In the 4th grade.
I'm sorry.
I know
so far back in the 4th grade.
In the 4th grade, I know my experience with architecture is extensive.
Uh-huh.
In the 4th grade, we had to build bridges out of toothpicks.
We did that too, but in the 6th grade. Wow, we were behind.
Yikes-a-loo. Talking about, we're going to build the arches, but couldn't even build a fucking toothpick
I wasn't
bridge.
The teacher. I didn't choose when I learned this.
Well, anyway. And then they would do like the strength test on it, right? And I just think, I don't understand how anything works. Like with
that's a whole like tension thing.
I know.
And I don't know that we would be building over water.
Well, we're going to have to do it at some point.
Well, I mean for a bridge, but like for a building, I don't think we're going to.
See, now I think you're being small-minded again.
I just said I could build an arch.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I don't think we're building buildings over water. I'm just thinking about like, that was my like sole experience with like, build something and let's see how much it can withstand. Yeah. And I just don't. And you know what? I'm sorry for the people in Baltimore that experienced that bridge collapse. But it makes me feel a little better to know that like, that thing snapped like a twig. Like, have you seen the video of it?
Yes.
Like, and I'm like, okay, like maybe I'm more intelligent than I think I am because some really smart people built that bridge and it still went down like that.
Yeah.
Am I better than everyone? No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
I think we could come up with bridges. I don't think we could come up with like the really, really big bridges. And I don't think we could come up with ones that cars go across because I have big questions on cars. But we just need like a walking bridge.
Well, the concept's the same though.
But one has to hold so much more weight.
Yeah. And
the end.
There you go again. That's small-mindedness. You're so confident about the arches and the distribution of weight, but oh no, when it comes to a car on a bridge, forget about it.
I just need it to carry like me and my little wagon and my
horse. Whoa, your wagon? That's
right.
That's a car.
No, it is not.
It is. it's as heavy as a car.
What are your wagons made of?
Well, what are your wagons carrying?
Probably my art supplies.
Okay, well, I bet
And,
there's
like,
a lot of them.
A dog.
I
and a
bet
cat.
there's like hundreds of pounds of art supplies.
No.
You don't think so?
No. Because I'm not going to let a horse carry it. I'm going to pull it myself.
That's true. That's true. So we don't have to account for the horse. Well, I just think that you're so confident about the arches that I felt like you'd be confident about bridges. And
No.
I'm surprised that you're not.
No.
Even though it's literally the same concept. You sat there and you talked about the distribution of weight and the math that has to do with arches. And then for bridges, you're like, that's a lot of figuring that out.
Yeah, but that's because an arch that I'm thinking of in a house is like on land. And so B, if it crumbles, we're not all going to drown. And that is scary.
Bridges start
and
on
you
land.
Don't walk on the arch. You walk under.
Yeah, but
so just don't disturb it.
But there's shit that you're going to put.
It's going to be beautiful.
The building is going to put its weight down on the arch at some point. Somewhere.
I'll glue it.
You'll glue it. This will hold.
That's right. I'll glue it and we'll all just walk under it, not over
put
it.
Some clamps on it and walk away.
That's right.
Don't touch it.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's never talk about bridges again. Because yikes. Okay, so Baroque architecture is something that comes on later. And the reason I wanted to talk about this.
If it's not Baroque, don't fix it.
If it's not Baroque, make it Baroque. Because my God, that's some beautiful architecture.
That is true.
Baroque is all about being like opulent and dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of two words that better describe either one of us. Opulent and dramatic.
Opulent.
And dramatic. Yes.
So this has nothing to do with anything.
Anything I just said.
Except for my middle school, its whole theme was like medieval.
Oh.
We were the Lancers, which going there, we were like, what the fuck's a Lancer?
You're a Lance that goes to your middle school and you're like, this is awkward.
But a Lancer, if you do not know, is like a
knight, right?
Yeah, it's like a knight when they're doing the thing with the horse.
Lancing.
Well, yeah, but there's like a thing.
Jost.
I want to say
jousting?
Joyce.
No.
Maybe it is jousting.
I almost said jostling.
Jousting.
That's it.
I was going to say jostling.
That's not it either. Yes, jousting.
Jousting.
It has been a long couple of weeks for me. So the words in the brain are not together.
Yeah. But so it was all about medieval times and things like that. We even went to like the medieval times place for a field trip where you get to watch them joust and eat big turkey legs and stuff. That was like a field trip at the end of the year. It was really cool.
I'm just picturing a really tiny Haylie with a really big turkey leg.
Yeah. And it was great. But then we had Baroque days at school, which was like a fun little fair that they put on.
Yeah.
And we got like shirts that had like a jester on them. And they were like the Baroque days.
I just wish people could see your hand movements when you do the Baroque days.
So that when I think of Baroque, that's always what I think of.
Oh, well.
So that's all I got.
I think it would have been really fun to have like Baroque style because, I mean, if you just like Google Baroque style, it's very like, when you go to the Christmas market.
Yeah.
And they have those like little wooden like cutout structure things. That is what Baroque looks like. It's just very like ornate and detailed. And I love it. I think it's so beautiful.
Because that's when it was like all the artists had time to do art.
Yeah.
And so then they were like, we should get with the architects.
The architects?
I was like, I forget the word halfway through. Oh no. They should get with the architects and then make buildings
and then make it pretty,
artistic, and beautiful.
Yeah, architecture's wild.
It is. It's like when Ty and I went to the Palace of Versailles on our honeymoon.
Did you possibly mean Versailles?
We did not go to Versailles. Thank God.
Oh. When you were in Paris, Illinois?
Yikes. But so they have all the like beautiful architecture and all the filigree and everything.
Yes.
And I was like, we should do this to our house.
Yeah.
I'm going to put
Crown molding
and crown molding and on everything. And I'm going to put velvet wallpaper everywhere. And I'm going to put like metallic gold on everything. And Ty was like, we live in Indiana.
You try to sell this house?
Yeah.
People are like, oh my God, what happened here?
He's like, maybe on our forever home, but no one will buy
this
that.
one.
And I was like, someone will. It'll be beautiful.
Yeah. I think honestly, the only reason we've gotten so far away from that is because we just like, we just sort of like plug and chug with architecture now, right? Like even if you go to like build a house, they have like, you know, the layouts already done. Like there's really no like, it's like you can choose from these 3 options. Yeah. And it's none of it's like exciting or I don't know. It's so fun to like go tour. Like I just toured the Pabst Mansion in Milwaukee, which is like the Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. So it's the guy who started that. And it's so just like ornate and like there's just like dark like cherry wood everywhere and the crown molding and things like that. Like people really used to take pride, not that people don't take pride in the appearance of their home now. It's just much more like decorating as opposed to like the actual architecture of the home that's important to people now. And I think it is because we're just trying to quickly turn things out, you know, like let's get this house put up and let's keep it moving. That like we don't get really creative with it anymore.
No, and I don't like that because I want fun things.
I know. She wants the arches.
I want the arches. I want a turret. I want carvings in my home.
Yeah.
And I don't want just a cookie cutter house, which unfortunately I do live in. And I like my house. I really love my house. I love
your house.
But if I could just imagine what I would want my house to look like and then be like, poof, here it is.
It wouldn't look like this.
No, it would be very ornate to the point where people would be like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But that's because we live in Indiana and everything's all like farmhouse. And I'm like, fuck your farm. I'm over it.
It's just too much for me. Like, live your life and do what you want, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, it's just a little like done over for me.
But also like, do what I want for once. Come on, God.
For once, can you just cave to my desires?
Exactly.
Please.
Why is everyone like, sad beige house for your sad beige children and your sad beige life?
Oh my God.
That's how I feel. Like someone put some color, put a little pop, honestly, a little pizzazz.
A little life in here.
Right.
It never killed anybody.
Exactly. You know, they used to have beautiful castles and now we all live in a paper house.
Yeah. And it's just, And even like, that's like a development of, I think, probably like the 50s and on. Like when, I have no idea if this is true or not. This is just me speculating. That when, you know, like, sort of like mass exodus of people from the cities and then creating suburbs, the need to create houses so quickly became a thing. And so it was just like, you know, just basically plug and chug, you know, we're going to do the same thing all the way down the street. And that tradition is sort of carried on. But I think even like if you look at a house that's from like 1920 or 1930, it looks very different than like what we have now. And it's much more beautiful in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like it has a lot of character. Like that just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
That people had houses that all looked the same on the interior. I mean, like I'm just looking at like inside this room and the like baseboards, like those are a dime a dozen, right? Like they look like that in so many houses. It's just like, it's just not different anymore. And I wish it was.
Yeah, I agree. I want more castle-like structures.
Yeah. Me too.
And I think we could have done that. And I think in an awful world, we would.
Yeah, I don't think it would look like this at all in an awful world. I don't think we'd ever get to this point of the cookie cutter thing.
No. Well, and I also think about drywall. Because have you ever just thought about drywall?
No.
Like, no, you've never thought about drywall?
I've never just like really sat and thought about it.
Oh, I have, because I watch a lot of houses go up around here and a lot of apartment complexes. And sometimes
And you're like, how do they do that?
Like sometimes I go to work and it is just like the wood frame and I come home and all the walls are up and everything, and like the outside is done. And I'm like, that is a paper house with a wood interior.
It's weird.
And drywall, I looked this up, was invented only in 1916.
I am not surprised by that at all.
And it is literally plaster with a piece of paper sandwiched on both sides.
Yeah, that checks out.
That is what our houses are built of.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's so easy to like punch a hole in a wall.
Yeah. We live in a paper mache home.
Yeah.
Everybody here does.
It stands up decently well to most things.
It does. I mean, it's not like your exterior
is,
made of that or anything.
Then it would crumble.
Yes, it would. Back to the Three Little Pigs. You would be, if our outside walls were made of drywall, we would be the straw house, kind of a thing.
It would just fall down.
But it's just crazy to think about the fact that we went from like stone homes.
Yeah.
To paper homes, and everyone was just like, yeah, I'm chill with that.
Yeah.
I'm super fine with that. And I'm like, you know what? Honestly,
I'm not
fine with that. And if I had my choice to build my dream house someday, it would not be a paper home.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I guess I would probably still put it on interior walls so I could hang things and stuff like that. But I feel like I would want the structure to be really, really sturdy and really thick. Yeah.
It does kind of make you wonder, like, do you think about, okay, you said that came around in 1916, but then I'm thinking, 1950s is when we get all the cookie cutter homes. Do you think about the fact that, like, you could probably drive around this city and open Zillow, and, like, most of the homes, I guarantee you, were built, like, after 1980. You really don't see a lot of homes that were built between like 1950 and 1980 that are still around. Mm-hmm. So it just makes you wonder, like how long are the like cookie cutter houses like
made to last?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are they going to last? Because there are a lot of like really old homes that are still very livable for people. Mm-hmm. Like obviously you're going to come up with issues. You're going to have to replace the roof and probably at some point put in like a new air unit or HVAC or whatever.
Right.
But like for the most part, like they're pretty sturdy, like well put together homes.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of makes me wonder, like, how long is this supposed to last anyway?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out at some point.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully a long time.
God, I hope.
But I don't know. I don't know.
Especially homes with like the economy today.
Yeah.
And they're costing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then for them to just like crumble one of these days.
The price of materials,
awful.
It's just gone up so much.
Which is why the Haylies of the world think if it's worth building, it's worth overbuilding.
It's true.
So that it stays around forever.
Yeah. Because I want someday for a really like futuristic Haylie or Libby to be able to come back and be like, wow, what a marvel.
Mm-hmm. I want them to be super impressed with like the OG Haylies and Libbys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to come to the Haylie and Libby Chichen Itza, stare at it and go, wow, that's really remarkable.
I want them to be like, wow, there's no way they could do this. The aliens had to help them.
Yes. Yes. I want you to be so impressed with our work that you think that aliens helped us.
That's right. That you have to give our credit to somebody else because you think there's no way that we were cool and smart and strong enough.
Which as women, we're pretty used to that.
Yeah.
So go ahead, world.
Right. But also don't because,
don't.
I just think that's just really shitty because those people really did do that work. And
they did.
So maybe you should give them the credit they deserve
amazing.
And stop fucking talking about aliens because if they wanted you to know that they did something here, they would let you know.
They would.
They'd sign their name to it.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything else to say about architecture. What about you?
Either. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, I think definitively, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We would have moved out of caves like almost immediately.
Yeah.
We'd have been like, this is kind of wet and cold.
And dark and not symmetrical.
Yeah. So we're going to build something else.
Yeah.
And then we would.
Maybe out of wood.
Yeah. Maybe we would build it out of wood.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on today's episode of An Awful World, where we talked about architecture.
Yes, it made it a little less awful.
A little less awful in this awful world.
Join us next time.
Find us wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.